Greetings, I'm Chris Holshouser with BlueForge Alliance. I'm the Managing Director for Technology Development, and I'm here with Dr. Scott Kasen of Austal and the Additive Manufacturing Center of Excellence. Scott, would you like to introduce yourself and your organization and the AMCOE?
Sure, my name is Scott Kasen. I'm the Director of Technologies at Austal USA. Austal USA is the lead entity leading a consortium of partners that operate the AMCOE down in Danville, Virginia.
What is the mission or the objective of the AMCOE? Can you give a little bit more detail about what that is?
Yeah, so ultimately the mission of the AMCOE is to increase production capacity in the submarine industrial base using additive manufacturing. We really do that in four meaningful ways. The first way is we go through print, machine, and test cycles at the AMCOE to de-risk parts that are making construction of submarines a challenge, right? We want to go after parts that have great impact, de-risk those parts, the AM approach for those parts, and push that out to the submarine industrial base so those suppliers that will be producing those parts can move at a speed and velocity that we really need. Secondly, it doesn't help if we can't hand off those packages, those build recipes to suppliers in the industrial base. So we work hand in hand with suppliers to get them qualified to produce Navy parts. The third way we do that, the third meaningful effort that we have at the COE is we support workforce development programs. And so there's a lot of lessons learned on the Navy approach to AM, and we want to push those lessons learned to workforce development curricula, like is being done at the Institute of Advanced Learning and Research with the Accelerated Training and Defense Manufacturing Program, so that those workers get those skills and they understand what the AM approach is, the Navy AM approach specifically, so that when they do enter the workforce, they're prepared and ready to go. And the fourth thing that we do at the AMCOE is bridge the gaps. We talk about technology gaps. That means tech scouting, understand what technologies are out there that might help us to get to where we need to be to support these supply chains faster. We also try to bridge the supply-demand gap, right? So we want to work with suppliers to reduce those barriers to entry, to make sure that there is an opportunity for them to invest in additive manufacturing for the Navy.
You know, your facility is less than a year old. You listed four very important pillars, I would say, of being able to drive additive manufacturing adoption. What's the journey been like for you? What are some of the challenges maybe that you've experienced that were a little bit surprising that you've had to overcome to get to this point?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is, the Navy, particularly submarines, has an impeccable, really, safety record. And so we have a long history of using castings, forgings, and fittings. And this new technology like additive manufacturing comes along, and there's for good reason, there is some risk aversity there. And so the challenges that we're faced with is really demonstrating with technical rigor how additive manufacturing can impact some of the supply chain issues that the Navy's facing.
We talk a lot about urgency. You said, there's a dire need. We've got to do this now. We've got to do everything we can do to accelerate, but not lose that engineering rigor. You all have had some really great successes recently. Can you speak to some of the accomplishments you've had in helping get some ships turned around and using additive to replace castings and forging?
Yeah, so the AMCOE was originally conceived to really handle or support new construction, but we've had a lot of success with helping sustain the fleet that's out there today. And so what I mean by that, at the AMC, we have dedicated Navy machines. The Navy, when they come knocking, they don't have to get in line to use our equipment and for us to be able to provide the services that are needed to produce parts. So it's not on an infrequent basis that we get a call to say, hey, we have a boat that needs to leave the pier in 2 to 3 weeks. Can you help us replace this part that we're having trouble getting through traditional supply chain means? And so we're able to turn those responses, we're able to provide solutions to the Navy very quickly in those cases.
I have the privilege to sit sort of in the middle and see all of the different entities working together and all the different elements that we're trying to bring to support the Navy. What's it been like working with BlueForge, having a non-for-profit kind of help be an integrator? What's that relationship look like, and how has that relationship evolved?
Yeah, it's been a great relationship, and BlueForge has really helped us amplify what we're trying to do at Austal in two important ways. One is the Build Submarines campaign that you guys operate, right? So when we approach suppliers and say, hey, we'd like you to contribute to this mission, they're already aware, AM suppliers are already aware of what the mission is, and they're familiar with the campaign. And so that makes our job a lot easier. So that's been a huge asset to have BlueForge leading that for us. The other way that BlueForge amplifies things for us is, there are all these other stakeholders, all these other efforts. Austal in the AMCOE has a sliver of the larger picture. So BlueForge as an integrator has an important job in my mind of making sure all these different efforts end up at the same rendezvous point. And at the end of the day, it's one of those cases where the sum is greater than the parts, and so our successes get amplified by the work that BlueForge is doing.
We always talk about how do we go faster? How do we keep pushing the limits? We've done some amazing things up until now. What could either BlueForge or the Navy or someone listening to this, what could we do to help even move that much faster, or to be able to chip in maybe some areas that you're seeing as a little bit of a bottleneck or an issue that we didn't originally plan for? What can we do to help you?
Yeah, I think BlueForge is doing a great job. I think one of the greatest assets for us with BlueForge has been your network, right? You have both a deep network of expertise, but you also have a wide network of expertise. And so I think when we have challenges, one of the things we first do is pick up the phone to call you guys to see in your network who can provide that help. And so I would argue that the way you guys help us in the future is staying right where you are and continuing to provide the support that we need when we are looking when we have a gap that needs to be filled.
If I'm an entity that has a capability, maybe I'm a powder provider, maybe I have a unique heat treat capability and I want to help out, like how do I get engaged? How do I reach out to you? Is it you, or do you have a generic email, or what's the best channel or mechanism to do that, to get engaged?
Yeah, so we're looking for suppliers to contribute to the mission. The best place to reach out to us is at Additive at AustalUSA.com. We are monitoring that email address. We are looking for suppliers to contribute to the mission, as I said, and we want to be able to, as I said, kind of bring down those barriers, remove those barriers to entry in this market that is still really maturing, right? It's not a fully mature market. So, the Navy, Austal, BlueForge is there to, provide that help to get suppliers to dip their toes in, and when, maybe there isn't the clearest picture of where the future is going, but I think we can help paint that picture for suppliers.
That's excellent. Well, it's definitely, like I said, been an honor working with you personally, Scott, and just the whole Austal team, and I'm very impressed with what AMCOE has built into, and I'm loving how it's continually to evolve. So really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Chris. It's been a pleasure working with BFA, and looking forward to a long relationship in the future, too.